Well, back to the campaign now, and the Coalition will unveil its highly anticipated defence spend today, which will top out at 3% of GDP within the decade. That's an estimated $21 billion higher than the Labor Party. Joining us is the Deputy Opposition Leader, Sussan Ley. Sussan, thanks for your time this morning. So national security is supposed to be bread and butter for the Coalition, but thousands have already voted. So have you left this too late?
Well, we read the commentary as everyone does, but what we're doing is communicating our message to the Australian people, Pete. And this is a very important message because on defence spending, you do have a clear difference between the strong and decisive leadership of Peter Dutton and the Coalition and the weak, indecisive, muddled plan from this Prime Minister. And it's interesting with defence spending because I know that's the subject of much of the talk this morning. Both the Prime Minister and us have absolutely agreed that we're in the most uncertain geopolitical phase since World War II. But we're actually responding to that with an announcement of $21 billion over the next 5 years and a lifting of our defence spending above the government's to 3% in the decade and 2.5% in the next 5 years. So you've got two completely different plans. Labor plateauing at 2.3%, woefully inadequate, but the strong, decisive approach that we're taking will see 2.5% in 5 years and then 3% over the decade. That's hugely important in these uncertain times.
I get that, but given we are so late in the piece now when it comes to this election, why did you leave it so late, given that, as I mentioned, thousands of people have already gone to the polls?
Pete, and thousands of people are tuning in to our very strong message about getting this country back on track. And as I stood at my own pre-poll yesterday, I actually asked quite a few people, do you feel better than you did 3 years ago? In fact, we had queues at the door at 8:30 a.m, people rushing in, I realised, to vote out this Albanese government. But the most important thing is that we continue to communicate our message on many fronts. And in the lead up to Anzac Day, I know Australians will be focusing on critical issues like the defence of our nation and understanding and appreciating that very clear difference between ourselves and the Labor Party.
OK, so it is a significant spend. How are you going to pay for it?
All our costings will be released in the lead up to election day, fully transparent, demonstrating a better bottom line. Everything will be there, Pete, and I'm always happy for you to ask me this question, as you do most Wednesdays, but the answer is the same. In the lead up to election day, all of our costings will be released and will be able to be fully interrogated.
The International Monetary Fund has overnight cut growth here by 0.5% in just the space of the past 6 months because of Trump tariffs. But is yours and the government's open chequebook, without a plan to rein in spending at the moment, making things worse?
I think what the IMF was advising is that every dollar of government spending has to be spent wisely. And this is the key difference between Labor's approach, because their budget is now not in good shape. You need a strong budget for tough economic times. We've opposed $100 billion of their spending. And as I said, our full costings transparent, fully released before election day. But what I'm seeing from this government is no plan. They've had high interest rates and high inflation over the period of this term. And the factors of productivity are not working in their favour because their policies on energy are so against our Australian manufacturing and industry base. So what the IMF is saying is be careful, spend dollars wisely, and don't bake in that structural spend over decades, which is exactly what this government has done.
OK, just on energy and on nuclear in particular, further to this point that Cameron Redden made a moment ago, the Labor Party has been hammering you over the $600 billion total bill for nuclear, but that's at the highest end of the forecast. The lower end is about $120 billion, according to the Smart Energy Council. Why haven't you fought back harder on that? Well,
we have effectively criticised the government for telling a lie about the figure that you just quoted. And Anthony Albanese on last night's debate didn't mention that at all, which absolutely locks in the fact that he understands that he's been quoting the wrong figure and telling a lie about that nuclear costing. Our full costing is $331 billion, but Pete, that includes renewables, gas, the network, the infrastructure. And of course, the nuclear costing alone is $120 billion. So We have a clear plan that has a much better pathway forward for this country. And I know that Australians can see the lies in the Prime Minister's eyes. They saw that last night in the debate. And I think Peter Dutton articulated a very clear, decisive vision, his vision for the future of this country.